Hello and welcome. Let's get ready to do some yoga. First, I want to take a moment to show you some of the props that I like to have handy. A canvas strap is the most important one to me. A couple different sizes of yoga blocks and a couple different sizes of pillows. And personally, I like to have two different sizes of bolsters if I can. These supports are used to allow a maximum relaxation in a restorative practice. And also the blocks essentially bring the floor up closer to you. So we'll start in Savasana, corpse pose, setting our intentions for this practice. Focus on what you want to bring into your life and what you're needing to let go of. How can you create the space to allow for that change and shift? Continue to relax in your Savasana while continuing to set your intentions. Allow yourself to let go of all of your worries, all of your concerns, all of your stress. Let go of the concerns, worries, and stress from today, from this week, this month, the entire year. Allow yourself to be stress-free. Slowly rotate your head and neck to the right, keeping your drishti over your right shoulder. Take a deep, intentional breath. And then allow your head and neck to go back to neutral. And then to the left for another deep breath. And then back to neutral. Stretch your body out as long as you can, reaching your hands overhead, pointing your toes, rotating your ankles. And then hug both of your knees in. Now lower your left leg down to the mat while continuing to hug that right knee for several breaths. You have an option to engage that foot, flexing your heel, rotating the ankle, pointing your toes. Continue hugging that knee, paying close attention to the micro movements and the compression in your right hip socket. And now reach for your strap. Get the canvas to go across the ball of your right foot. You can keep that knee bent or straighten out your leg. Bend that knee slightly if you wish. Pulling that leg a little closer to your chest. And then swing the right leg out to the right side, continuing to hold it into the strap for a half straddle. This is a big stretch. Breathe into it. And then as you release, you can set the strap aside while lowering your right leg back down to the mat. Hands overhead again, stretching out long, pointing those toes, rotating the ankles, hugging in both knees again. And now lower your right leg back down to the mat while continuing to hug your left knee tightly. Again, you can engage the foot and ankle by flexing and pointing your toes, rotating your ankle. Continuing to hug that left knee in tightly. And again, pay attention to the micro movements and focus on that compression in the left hip socket. Then reach for your strap, placing the canvas across the ball of your left foot, straightening out that leg. You can keep the knee slightly bent or straighten it as much as you want. Let's hold it there. And you can mix it up with the straightening and the bending. You might want to pull the leg just a little bit closer to your chest. And then swing that left leg out to the left side with the strap for the half straddle on the left. Big, big stretch. We'll hold here for several breaths. And then set your strap aside while lowering that left leg back down to the mat. Both of your legs are outstretched. You're stretched out long, arms overhead. And then hug both of those knees tightly again. Getting your forehead to your knees. Continue to hold your right knee while lowering the left leg back down to the mat. Just continue to hold there. And then we're going to place the right knee onto the floor or a bolster across your body for the supine twist. Arms are in a T. Placing that right knee onto the bolster on your left side. Keeping the arms in a T, drishti out over your right fingertips. You have an option here to use your left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee if you wish. Just enjoy this stretch, focusing on the release in the small of your back. And then slowly turn your head to look the opposite direction over your left fingertips for 2 full breaths. And then slowly turn your head and neck back to the right, relaxing your gaze over those right fingertips again. And then head and neck back to neutral. Lower that right leg back down to the floor, hugging in both of your knees together, head and neck towards those knees, rocking and rolling. Before then lowering your right leg to the floor while continuing to hug your left knee. Just hold that knee tight. And then move your left knee across your body to place it on the floor or bolster on your right side. For the supine twist to the other side. Arms are in a T again, keeping your gaze out over your left fingertips. Enjoy the release, relaxing your lower back. Again, with your right hand, you can apply that light pressure to the left knee at any point if you wish. Slowly rotate your head and neck to the right. Hold for a couple of breaths, looking out over the right fingertips. And then slowly rotate the head and neck back to neutral, back to the left, and then back to neutral once more. Lower that left leg back down to the mat while coming out of this twist. Stretch your arms out long overhead. Hug both of those knees once again, stretching your neck, getting your forehead to touch the knees, rotating your ankles, engaging your feet, flexing the heels, pointing your toes, whatever feels good. And we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You might want to utilize a couple of props like the yoga blocks or small pillows under your knees or thighs. Your arms are down by your sides, hands facing up, surrendering to your practice. Then slowly glide your arms across the floor, out to the sides, arching them overhead in a half moon, to the steeple grip or prayer hands. Pause there. And then glide your arms across the floor again, back down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are facing up. Slowly stretch your arms out to the sides as wide as you can again, bringing them back up overhead into the half moon. Touching the fingertips to each other in the prayer hands or steeple grip. With your arms overhead outstretched, remain in the reclined butterfly pose. Here you can remove any props you might be using. We're going to get into the reclined tree pose. First, straighten out your left leg while placing the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Hands still overhead in prayer hands or steeple grip or yogi's choice. You can branch them out if you'd like. Goalposts in a T, whatever is most comfortable. Hold that stretch with your yogi breath. And then we're simply going to switch sides, first straightening out the right leg and then placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms are still overhead in prayer hands, goalpost, steeple grip. Coming out of this shape, we'll reach for the canvas strap, getting it to go across the balls of both feet for legs up the wall. Your knees can be straight or slightly bent. You can pedal your knees, you can rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. Continue to keep your left foot in the strap while you remove your right foot and place the right ankle across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. Holding that there, you can bend your left knee slightly as an option, or you can keep that knee straightened, or some of each, straightening and bending. And then we'll switch out the feet. Get your right foot back into the strap, removing your left foot. Place that foot across your right thigh for the reclining pigeon on the other side. Again, you have the option to bend the knee slightly, straighten it out, or some of both. Enjoy this stretch. And then setting your strap aside as you come out of that, we will prepare to do 3 honey bumblebee breaths, laying flat. Fingers are across your closed eyelids. Thumbs are on your ear cartilage, pressing your thumb down on that tragus, closing off the airway into the ears. Breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. We're going to hum low pitch 3 times as we exhale. And then after that, we're going to prepare to flip ourselves over. Slowly and carefully, you can turn yourself to the left or the right. And then turn over to lay prone onto your front side. Resting your head on your hands, laying on top of each other. Just recalibrating the gravity. Prepare for another twist. We're going to come up onto the elbows and the forearms into Sphinx. Hike up your right knee out to the right side with your right arm out in front of you. And then with your left arm, you can thread the needle. Making any adjustments for this supine twist pose that you need to as you get into this position once again. You might want to use that bolster or prop to support your knee on. You can straighten out both of your arms, trying to lay your shoulders flat on the ground, arms in a T. At any point, you can use your left hand again to apply that slight pressure to the right knee, keeping your gaze out over your right fingertips. Notice any differences from the last supine twist, having gotten here from an entirely different sequence of prompts and directives. Also, take note of any similarities along with those differences. When you're ready to come out of this twist, you can simply rest your head on your hands once again, stacking your hands on top of one another. And then we're going to bend the knees, feet in the air, windshield wiper the feet and calves. And then slow that down. Lower your feet back down to the mat. And up on your forearms and elbows and hands once again into the Sphinx pose. Same thing on the other side. Hike your left knee up to the left side of yourself with your left arm out in front of you. Thread your right arm through the needle, shifting into the supine twist again. You can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground in a T. You can use a bolster or a prop to set your knee on. And again, you have the option of applying a light pressure with the right hand on your left knee, keeping your drishti out over your left fingertips. As you're relaxing into this twist, again, notice the similarities and differences from the first supine twist, and even from the other side. Relax into it. And then when you're done and you unwind, you can rest your head on your hands stacked on top of each other again. We're going to lift the feet into the air once more, and this time in an exaggerated motion, really windshield wiper those feet and knees back and forth, loosening out your hips as much as you can. Then slow that down, lower your feet back down to the ground, and then we're going to send our hips back towards our feet, getting into a wide knee child pose. You can use a block, a bolster, or a pillow to rest your head or your torso on. We're going to hold this pose, really relaxing the torso, ragdolling that upper portion of your body, allowing gravity to do the work for you. Really lean into this. Coming out of this pose, you can get into a tabletop, removing the prop if you have one, and then lowering back down into the Sphinx onto your elbows and forearms once again. This time spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can, holding that Sphinx pose tall. Before then, turning your right forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. Reach back with your left hand for your left foot. Holding it there in the half bow pose for several breaths. Preparing to do full bow, which to me is the most challenging part of this whole practice. So take a minute here if you want to attempt full bow, getting each of your feet into each of your hands. You might want to use the strap to get your right foot into your right hand and your left foot into your left hand. If you have someone nearby, you can ask for someone to spot you. If it's too much, just do what you're comfortable with, knowing that your level of flexibility varies from day to day. I can do this on most days, but every once in a while, I can't. And it's kind of inexplicable. It's interesting. So if you're in the full bow, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock yourself slightly back and forth, or you can remain still, or some of each. And then as you're ready to let go of your feet, rest your head on your hands. Again, one hand on top of the other. And windshield wipering those feet, loosening out those hips again. Slowing that down, lowering the feet back down to the floor. Same thing on the other side, coming back up into Sphinx. Stretching your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can. Sitting tall. Before then turning the left forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. Reaching with your right hand back to hold your right foot. Engaging in this half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, you can attempt the full bow if it's in your practice, using your strap, having someone spot you, whatever it is that you need to support yourself into this full bow challenge. I usually take turns letting go of each foot and using one foot to guide the other into my hand until I get it. And then again, if you are in full bow, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock yourself lightly back and forth. You can remain still, or a little bit of both. Or if you're not in full bow, just modify this however you choose. And if you're in full bow and you're letting go of your feet, lowering them back down to the mat, again, send your hips back to sit on your feet into child's pose. This time, a regular child's pose with your knees together. While sitting on your feet, you can rest your head on a block. We're going to be here for a prolonged period, so take several breaths, really ragdolling that torso, leaning into it. And then when you're ready, you can walk your fingers or slide your hands to the right edge of your mat, reaching up towards the right corner of the mat and feeling that stretch across your lower left ribs. And then hands and fingers back to neutral, sliding or walking your hands and fingers to the left edge of the mat, reaching towards the upper left corner. Focusing on the extension in the lower right ribs. Pausing there before gliding or walking the hands and fingers back to neutral. Really lean into this. Again, allow gravity to work its magic. Then slowly you can push yourself up with your torso, push your torso up with your hands on the mat, coming up into a lightning bolt pose, hero's pose, pausing here. Sometimes people like to have a block or a pillow under their rear end if the compression is too much on the knees. This is a really simple pose, but it can be extremely challenging. So give yourself all the support you need. You can place your hands on your thighs, remaining still, noticing the complexity of this seemingly simple pose. And then you can get your hands over heart in prayer hands. You can slowly rise the prayer hands up overhead and then lowering them back down, hands over heart, placing your hands back onto your thighs. And then you can come up onto your knees, widening your stance out, reaching your arms behind you, getting your hands and fingers into a bind if you wish. You can explore the limits of your flexibility here. I like to lean back slightly, try to push my hands and arms up towards the ceiling a little bit, leaning back as far as I can without losing balance. And then maybe bending forward with forehead on the mat, and then stretching the arms up overhead towards getting the hands towards the floor. Very challenging. Before then coming back into the camel pose and releasing the bind, and maybe getting a bolster or some blocks. We're going to explore leaning back for a good heart opener. I usually like to use the smaller, harder bolster across the backs of my ankles and then put my hands on it as I lean back. And then as you come up out of this shape, you can sit back onto your feet in the hero's pose, once again focusing on your breath. When you're ready, swing your legs out around in front of yourself for staff pose. You can stack pillows and props on top of your legs. You can pile up those props so that you can ragdoll your upper body onto the pillows. Alternatively, you can use a strap on the balls of your feet for the same type of effect here. We're going to relax into this for an extended period. Really lean into it. Trust that gravity is going to support you. Trust that the prop will support the weight of your body. Envision tilting your hips slightly forward towards your feet, towards your toes. Continuing to ease your weight forward. Trusting that that gravitational pull will keep you safe and give you what you need, completely supporting you. Really lean into it. And then when we're done, we'll remove the props, setting them aside. Get your left leg stretched out long. Bring the right foot up high to the inseam of your left thigh. Reaching for your left toes in a side bend. Breathing into the stretch. Focus on relaxing into it. Again, trusting gravity to work its magic. And then we're going to come up to neutral, getting the legs into the wide straddle stretch, leaning forward for a couple of deep intentional breaths, maybe using the blocks here. Slowly transitioning to the other side, we're going to switch it out by placing the left foot to the inner right thigh with the right leg out straight and reaching over those right toes in that side bend. Focusing on your breath and again trusting gravity to do its magic, to support you, to keep you safe. And then coming back up to neutral, stretching both legs out to a wide straddle again, leaning forward, reaching out in front of yourself, maybe resting your forearms and forehead on a block or two stacked up. You can focus on really leaning your weight into it. If you have your head on a block for support, focus on allowing the weight of your skull to be fully supported by that prop. And then coming up out of this pose, we're going to come into a seated butterfly, holding the soles of the feet together with both hands, allowing the knees to be going towards the floor as far as possible, sitting up tall, holding those feet, then mindfully bending your head and your neck towards your feet, slowly and methodically. Then gently rising your head up slowly, imagining a string above your head, pulling it straight up. Perfect posture. And then twisting your head from side to side, first to the right, and then neutral, and then to the left, and then back to neutral. And now you can stretch your neck down again, rolling it out in small movements at first. You can twist your head back and forth from side to side like you're indicating a no. You can be stretching your neck muscles diagonally, bending from side to side. If you want to, you can move your head up and down as if acknowledging a yes. And if it's in your practice and you'd like to do a full circle rotation in one direction, and then you can do a full circle rotation in the other direction before bringing your head to neutral and then shifting into easy pose. Here we're going to touch down to the ground with the left fingertips, dropping the right ear to the right shoulder. Here you have that option to use a light pressure with your fingertips on the top of your skull. If you want, you can move the head and neck slightly back and forth to gently massage out your neck muscles. And then allow your head and neck to come back up to neutral. And reaching with your right fingertips towards the ground while dropping your left ear to your left shoulder. And again, with that slight pressure with your fingertips, you can press on your head if you wish, moving the skull and your neck slightly back and forth, getting that extra neck massage before allowing the head and neck to go back to neutral. And again, slowly turn your head from side to side, gently to the right, and then back to neutral, and then to the left, and back to neutral. And now we're going to bring ourselves back into that wide straddle again. You might want to use the blocks in front of you to rest your forehead on once again, as we will remain in this stretch for an extended period. Focusing on your breath, filling your lungs, emptying your lungs, then filling them again with new air, appreciating the oxygen that has an opportunity to travel into your bloodstream to all your muscles as you relax into this stretch. And then here you can pick up a block into each of your hands, reaching out over your left foot, placing each of those blocks on either side of the foot to rest your hands on. Or you can reach for your toes, allowing gravity to assist your effort, making the side stretch as effortless as possible. Then as you pick up those blocks, reaching forward in the middle again, as you then slowly rotate your torso to set each block on either side of your right foot. And then you can reach for your toes, or you can rest your hands on those blocks, breathing deeply and trusting gravity to work its magic. You can lean into it, letting go of all your stress. And then as you come back to neutral, you can set your blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over our left leg that's extended out straight, twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Your right hand or fist is on the floor behind you. That right arm is supporting your torso. Using your left elbow to leverage on the right knee. Looking as far to the back wall as you can. Really appreciate this twist. And then slowly turn your head and neck to be looking out towards the front of the room, over the left shoulder. And again, slowly returning your head and neck so that your gaze is looking out towards the back of the room, all while leveraging that left elbow on the right knee. Then when we come out of this twist, we're simply going to switch sides, bending the left knee over the right leg extending out straight. Left hand or fist is on the floor behind you, gazing over your left shoulder towards the back of the room, leveraging with your right elbow against the left knee. Twists are great for digestion and just for so much. Slowly you can rotate your head and neck to be gazing your drishti out over your right shoulder towards the front of the room. And then slowly rotating your head and neck to be looking out towards the back of the room over your left shoulder once again. Continuing to leverage that right elbow on the left knee. And then back to neutral. Next, we're going to hold the soles of our feet together again, getting back into that butterfly. Allowing gravity to pull your knees towards the floor. Sitting up tall. And then carefully and mindfully bending your head and neck towards your feet. And then again, imagining that string being pulled up from above, from the top of your head as you come back up in perfect posture. And gently turning your head to the right. Slowly back to neutral. And then carefully to the left. And then back to neutral. And now we're going to get our legs into cow face and then Lord of the Fish. First, bend the right knee over the left knee that's also bent, stacking them on top of one another for cow face. You can hold each of your feet in each of your hands. I always like to use my thumbs to press into the arches of my feet for a little foot massage. Sitting up tall. And then turning all the way to the right with the right arm in back, your left elbow leveraging against your right knee, looking out towards the back of the room, appreciating the power of this twist. And then slowly turning your head to the opposite side, looking out over your left shoulder towards the front of the room. And then carefully back again to be looking out over your right shoulder towards the back of the room. And then back to neutral. Now straighten out both of your legs in front of yourself for a staff pose, reaching your arms out wide to the sides, arching them up overhead in that half moon towards the sky, interlacing your fingers, making a bind with your hands, turning them outward, reaching up as tall as you can. And then as you wish, you can bend forward, reaching for your toes. Noticing any tightness in your back that loosens. And then coming back to neutral. Now preparing to switch legs for cow face on the other side. Your left knee goes over your right bent knee. Holding your feet with each of your hands. Stacking those knees on top of each other. Again, you can massage the thumbs into the arches of each foot for a moment while sitting tall. And then twisting to the left, your right elbow is leveraging against the left knee, looking over the left shoulder towards the back of the room. And then slowly turning your gaze to look over the right shoulder towards the front of the room, before slowly returning the gaze back to be looking over the left shoulder towards the back of the room once again. And then your head back to neutral. Coming out of this twist, you can return to a staff pose. Reaching the arms out wide again, legs out front. Making a half moon arch, touching your hands overhead for steeple grip. Reaching tall towards the sky. And then slowly leaning forward, reaching for the toes. Again, noticing any tension that releases in your back. And then as you come up to neutral, transition into easy pose. Get ready for eagle arms. We're going to reach our arms out to the sides wide and then reaching up for the half moon arch, touching your hands together for prayer hands momentarily before getting into cactus arms, preparing for eagle arms with the right elbow over the left elbow, hands together, pushing the elbows slightly up, bending the head and neck slightly down. You can remain in this nice subtle stretch, or you have an option here to slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head slightly back eventually while pushing those eagle arms towards the sky. If you're doing that, then as your arms unpretzel, reach them back out wide, touching hands down to the ground. If you're not doing that, you can simply reach your arms out wide. Before then, arching the arms up into another half moon, touching the hands together overhead for prayer hands. Then back to cactus, and again eagle arms, this time with the left elbow going over the right elbow, pushing those elbows slightly up and bending the neck and the head down slightly. And again, you can stay in this nice stretch, focusing on the release in your upper back and your shoulder blades. You can remain here, or you have that option to slowly start to look up as high as possible, eventually leaning your head slightly back while pushing your elbows and arms up. They will unpretzel again, and then you can stretch those arms out wide to the sides, touching them to the earth. And then reaching back out wide into that half moon arch, lifting your arms up overhead into another steeple grip, sitting tall. Then we're going to do a nice simple twist to the right as we lower the arms down. The right hand will go behind you, the left hand on the right knee. Lifting your right arm up high over the left arm, reaching for the left knee with the right hand. The left hand can go onto the floor behind you before then raising that left arm up high and reaching it over your right arm to hold your right knee. And then you can hug your knees lightly in this basket shape. And here we have an opportunity to get into the boat pose. I like to hold my hands under my legs first for a very strong and intense boat pose while pointing my toes and flexing my heels, before then holding my arms parallel to the ground for a more traditional boat pose. And you may want to scissor your legs for a moment to get an additional benefit for your core strength, with your toes pointed or with your heels flexed. You can take a moment to slowly lower and raise your feet as you're scissoring your legs if you want. And then when we're done with that, we will lay down on our backs, stretching out long, and then plant both feet onto the floor, knees bent. You might want to hold a block or a pillow in between the knees and possibly another on each side of you as you allow your knees to simply fall to the right. Arms are in a T, focusing your gaze out over your left fingertips. And then slowly you're going to rotate your head and neck to look out the other direction over your right fingertips. And then slowly back again, looking over your left shoulder. Your gaze out over those left fingertips before your head and neck go back to neutral. Then bring your knees to neutral before allowing your knees to simply fall to the left, still with the arms in a T, gazing out over the right fingertips. And then slowly turn your head to be looking out over your left shoulder and your left fingertips, before slowly turning your head back to be looking out over your right fingertips. And then back to neutral, knees back to neutral. Remove any props and hug in both of your knees, bending the head and the neck. Forehead may be touching the knees. You can engage your feet, flexing your heels, pointing your toes, rotating those ankles. And then we're going to plant both feet firmly on the mat again, raising your right knee up high, swinging your right leg over your left knee, and then allow your legs to fall to the right with your arms in a T, and your gaze out over your left fingertips. This is what I like to call the grand finale of the twists. This is my all-time favorite. Just relax into it. Feeling that release in your glute, in your hip. And then as you bring your knees up to neutral, you can undo them, hugging your knees to your chest, rocking and rolling momentarily before firmly planting both of your feet back onto the mat for the other side, lifting your left knee straight up and bending it over the right knee, allowing those legs to fall to your left side. Arms are still in a T with your gaze over your right fingertips. Enjoy this final twist. And then when you're ready, you can release your knees back up to neutral, hugging in both of those knees one more time, rocking and rolling if you'd like to. And here we have an option for happy baby. Holding your toes or the sides of your feet with your hands. You can rock the baby, maybe alternating, straightening, and bending each knee. Give yourself a minute just to enjoy the happy baby, any version you like. And then as we come out of this form, we will lay flat. And then reach for a block for supported bridge. Plant both feet firmly on the mat, lifting your hips. Slide a block under the small of your back on its lowest level. Lowering the sacrum of your back onto that block. Relaxing into supported bridge. And then while still on the block, you can reach for your canvas strap, or you can do this without the strap. But if you're using your strap, get the canvas to go across the balls of both of your feet, and we're going to get into legs up the wall. Again, you can walk it out, slightly bending and straightening each leg. Pedaling out your knees. then when you're done with that, set the strap to the side, removing the block. If it's in your practice, we have an opportunity here for a shoulder stand and the plow. If you want to take a minute or two to do these, or yogi's choice, any stretch that you would like to do, feel free, or you can get into the Savasana early and we'll meet you there. Should you be in your shoulder stand, you might want to point your toes tall. You might want to rotate your heels. Twisting your ankles. Any movement that you're inclined to do before transitioning into the plow. And then as you come out of that plow, slow and controlled, with your chin tucked, try to roll yourself down onto the mat as slowly as you can, one vertebrae at a time. And then we're going to relax into the Savasana or corpse pose. You might want to bolster behind your knees or a small pillow under your neck. Remember those intentions that you set at the beginning of this practice. Thanking yourself for taking the time out of your day to focus on yourself and your well-being. As we bring our awareness back into the room and into our bodies, you can slowly roll to one side or the other and rest there. Or if it's comfortable for you, there's an option to push yourself straight up with your arms behind you, chin tucked, coming up slowly and carefully onto your elbows, slightly rocking before straightening your arms out behind you. And then transitioning into easy pose, or if you're on your side, here's where you can slowly and gently push yourself up, eventually getting into that easy pose. Once there, you can place your left hand on your right knee, your right hand on the floor behind you for a nice light twist to the right. Then lifting your right arm up high, crossing it over your left arm, right hand onto the left knee, and then reach behind yourself with your left hand to the left for a light twist, and then straightening that left arm up over the right arm, and the left hand will hold the right knee before hugging yourself into this nice basket shape again, lightly. And then you can transition into tightly hugging yourself, making yourself as small as you can, into a little seedling or a ball, taking up as little space as you possibly are able, before then releasing and stretching your arms out wide to the sides in a star shape, placing each of your hands onto each of your knees, touching the pointer finger to the thumbs, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. We will chant Om 3 times in a low pitch. And then stretching your arms out wide again for that half moon arch, bringing your hands up overhead to prayer hands. And then to acknowledge your insight and wisdom, touch your thumbs or knuckles lightly to your third eye on the way to hands over heart. Then reaching those arms out wide one last time for a half moon arch, prayer hands overhead, slowly lowering those prayer hands over heart to then bow to seal and close this practice. And so it is. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Be well. Enjoy a very blessed rest of your day. Be sure to drink a lot of water and eat a very healthy, nutritious diet. Rest well. See you on the next one.